ThinkAgain TV is produced by Centre for Inquiry, Canada's premier venue for secular humanists, atheists, skeptics, and free thinkers.
On May 9th through 11th of 2010, myself and other members of the Canadian Secular Alliance went to the National Prayer Breakfast in Ottawa. The Prayer Breakfast itself is an organization of Christian Fundamentalists who are hoping to infiltrate into government business. They invite members of Parliament, members of the Senate, and even members of the Supreme Court to talk in the spirit of Jesus about their faith and its role into politics. We believe that this is fundamentally dangerous. While we were there, we met this man on Parliament Hill who is advocating against gay rights, against abortion rights, and against the separation of church and state. I went out to talk to him. Many Canadians will be aware that the Parliament Hill is where democracy happens for Canadians. This is our symbol of free speech and free exchange of ideas. But regardless of this, we think that it's important to actually have an exchange of ideas, even when these ideas are ones that we find dangerous, ones that we think are infiltrating our secular society. I went out to talk to this Jesuit priest in order to get a better idea of where he was coming from on these important issues. It seems to me somewhat disingenuous to have an image instead of straightforward arguments. Like the example I would use is, although we all recognize child pornography is wrong, none of us need to watch child pornography in order to see that it's wrong, right? It's wrong regardless of the images.
Well, it hasn't been. We've had abortion now in Canada for 41 years. This year, 41 years. And we've tried all those avenues before, and yet it's just not working.
Okay.
We're still having over 100,000 abortions every year in Canada. So,
and you take this to be a sign that we just have to try harder. Do you think that maybe it's just a matter that people don't agree with you?
Well, I'm sure they don't agree, but for me, as I said, it is as simple as that. There's no complication for me. To kill an innocent person, the child is innocent. As far as there's no such thing as marriage between the same sexes. I say with the pamphlet that the sexual inclination, homosexual inclination, is not a sin in itself, but it's an objective disorder.
It's an objective disorder.
This is what I mean by that. This is the easiest way I could explain it.
Okay.
That the object of the sexual desire is the opposite sex, not the same sex.
But how do you establish that? How do you make that objective?
Well, we just, I guess, observing nature and reading the Bible.
As Canadians, we are far too comfortable with believing that our society is secularized. Here was a man who was advocating not just to eliminate gay rights to have marriage, but actively believes it's a disorder, something that's worthy of treatment rather than acceptance. And he was on Parliament Hill expressing these ideas. Now, I had gone with the intention of arguing with him. I had gone with the intention of trying to change his position on some of these points, or at least better understanding why he would think something so outrageous. What he had just claimed, after I had asked him what was his standard of objectivity, he replied that he got it out of the Bible. This, to me, was a signal that I was ready to get into him. But I wasn't prepared for what would happen next. Okay.
John Reimer, is it?
Yes.
How are you?
How are you?
Something going on here?
There was a parliamentary prayer breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was this morning. 10 years here earlier.
Oh, yeah? With the Conservatives?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. What's your name?
John Reimer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Your name sounds familiar.
What
riding?
Quite a few years. Kitchener.
Kitchener? Oh, I'm Toronto.
Oh, you're from Toronto area.
Toronto Danforth, so...
Oh, yeah.
Jack? Good old Jack?
Oh, yes. Yes, good old.
He's my... He was at the prayer breakfast this morning.
Yes.
I'm not better.
No, I think it's important.
I don't agree with him, but I respect his views.
Well, that's what... You're right.
Oh, I would.
Yeah.
And he's not asking you to agree.
No.
He's asking you just to think.
Yeah. That's all. He's not being violent or anything.
No, none of those things. And that's why he's allowed to be here, whereas many others
what
are
I
not.
try to do is to...
And years ago,
sort of challenge
I was
people
instrumental in
recognize
allowing him to be here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
We were unable to finish our conversation because he needed to go and shake hands with a former member of parliament. That was former MP John Reimer, who was instrumental in constructing what was called the Canadian Alliance Party and for advocating for Stockwell Day as the leader of that national party. John Reimer's conservative viewpoints are of no surprise to anyone who had been keeping track of politics in Canada over the last few years. But his connection to the minister Stockwell Day is entirely troubling, because Stockwell still maintains close contacts with the Conservative Party and is still very much important in developing policy in the Canadian government. The Canadian Alliance Party now has become the National Conservative Party, which now runs the country. So let's just tie that together. We have this anti-abortion, anti-secularization, and anti-gay rights advocate shaking hands, making plans, and speaking on a regular basis with a member of parliament, someone who is an architect of politics as we know it today in Canada. This is a state of secularization in our country, where the people who are making decisions, the people who are important to the political process, are advocating, are actively helping these people who are fundamentalists, these people who are trying to change our rights and to take them away. That's why we should be supporting the Canadian Secular Alliance. That's why we need a new movement of humanism in Canada.
All the best to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You going to be here for what?
ThinkAgain TV is produced by Centre for Inquiry, Canada's premier venue for secular humanists, atheists, skeptics, and free thinkers.
CFI Canada coordinates branches and campus groups across the country, runs a public education series, provides secular community services, incorporates cutting-edge multimedia such as blogs, podcasts, and YouTube, and is a regular voice in the press presenting a secular humanist, atheist, and skeptical perspective.